Firefighting in Canada this week is brought to you by VFIS of Canada, a division of CVIS Incorporated, Canada's largest insurer of firefighters. In this edition, the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs made several recommendations ahead of the federal 2024 budget. And Canadian Wood Council data shows mass timber structures remain stable after multiple fire tests. Then, the National Institute of Standards and Technology releases guidance for strengthening wildfire preparedness. The Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs made several recommendations ahead of the federal 2024 budget. Implementing a national fire administration is the organization's first request. The goal is to develop an agency similar to the one in the United States, which has operated since the 1970s. Modernizing fire equipment and training is also on the list of recommendations. The CAFC reported that 56% of fire departments have deferred equipment purchases this year due to fiscal pressures. More than 700 fire departments are using gear that was purchased more than 10 years ago. Other recommendations include increasing the volunteer firefighter tax credit, adopting the CAFC's plan for wildfire fighting, and funding a national smoke alarm campaign. The data comes from more than 500 fire departments across Canada. The recommendations come as Canada experiences its worst fire season in North American history. For the full list of recommendations, visit cafc.ca. Canadian Wood Council data shows exposed mass timber structures remain stable after multiple fire tests. The findings come from data that was collected through 5 experiments conducted at the Canadian Explosives Research Laboratory in Ottawa. The Mass Timber Demonstration Fire Test Program was developed to show how mass timber performs under severe fire conditions. Each test was done in a full-scale, 2-story, 334-square-meter mass timber structure, without sprinklers or firefighting intervention for about 19 hours. The tests looked at the fire performance of exposed and encapsulated mass timber in challenging fire scenarios, like an open-plan office, residential buildings, and during construction. The influence of exposed mass timber on fire severity and duration was also examined. The CWC said the data from these tests can be used to develop fire safety design, firefighting strategies, and building codes. For the full report on mass timber fire tests, visit firetests.cwc.ca. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has released new wildfire preparedness guidance. The reports are based on an analysis of the 2018 Camp Fire that killed 85 people in Paradise, California. Researchers identified 198 rescue events when efforts from firefighters and law enforcement and other first responders saved thousands of lives. Crews cleared roads, rescued civilians from buildings, and created 31 outdoor shelters that accommodated more than 1,200 people. But the report suggests evacuation is not a universal solution, based on the pitfalls and successes of Paradise's emergency response. When there is no time to flee, researchers found that sheltering in a designated safety zone may be a safer option. The report also suggests establishing metrics, like the time it takes to get every resident out of town, to understand a community's emergency response capabilities. Those types of metrics could be estimated using evacuation drills and traffic models. Researchers said clocking evacuation times in advance would allow officials to make better decisions in emergency situations. Advanced planning to safely evacuate critical care facilities and people with limited mobility was also emphasized. The NIST said the goal is to apply lessons learned from the Camp Fire to make communities safer with ongoing wildfire risks. Thanks again to VFIS of Canada, a division of CVIS Incorporated, Canada's largest insurer of firefighters. Stay tuned for our next episode on Friday, September 15th.